I didn't tell him, but I changed the topic. I do that sometimes. I actually realized that I can't talk about the new rules of the game unless we know the old rules of the game, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about just corporate reputation in general. And I think the most important thing to talk about is that as a VC, you might think that you're impervious to corporate reputation, it doesn't matter. As a startup, you might think it's entirely too early to worry about this, and as a large corporate, you might think your reputation is set in stone, so why even bother dealing with it? And all of these assumptions are wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. First, though, I think I need to explain why I'm hopefully qualified to talk about this. Ballou PR is a European public relations firm. We have offices in Paris and London and Berlin. I'm based in Berlin. We're 20 people and growing, and we work with disruptive, high technology companies. A lot of pressure. They're moving very quickly. We do B2B, even dev relations. And we're actually functioning probably with companies like, well, actually, you can see these are our past and present clients. And I think one of the most important things, well, when you think about corporate reputation, a few things come to mind, right? It's quality of your products and services. If you're a publicly listed company, it's your share price, it's your results, right? If you're, it's maybe even the interactions you have with portfolio companies, your LPs, again, if you're a venture capitalist, or with your clients. And all of these things are very important, but it is these interactions that define your corporate reputation. And here's something that perhaps you didn't know, right? It is your reputation. The way that people talk about you, the way you're perceived, is your corporate reputation. And you might not think it's important today, or crucial today, or even in the next few months, but one day it will be important, right? And the worst thing is that it's going to be important when you really need it most, and if you hadn't worked on it, you're really in deep trouble. And I'm going to take you through one example in particular. So one of my messages today is to start working and thinking about this now, because when you need it, it's not going to be there. So what I'm actually talking about is tactical versus strategic PR. Some companies come to us and say, we need you to build the buzz, we need you to get some press releases out there. And we say, look, that's really great, but that is very tactical, and that's really not what PR is at its best. PR is far more than media relations, far more than speaking at conferences, right? And I'm going to change your perception about what it is. One of the most important things to think about is think beyond traditional and non-traditional media relations. We're talking about the word of mouth that helps you raise your valuation, sell stuff, right? Again, if you're a VC, get you deal flow. How many times have I worked with venture capitalists who can't really understand why they're not getting the best deals in their very backyard, right? These things are passing them by, they didn't even know about it. Why? Well, that's because something's going on with their reputation. Maybe their reputation is just wrong. Maybe people don't understand that they invest at a certain level. They do seeds. Nobody knows they do seed. Or maybe there's been conversation amongst the entrepreneurs saying, that guy's a jerk, right? Or he has a big mouth and he tells details. He can't be trusted. He took my idea and took it to one of his portfolio companies. Reputation is absolutely crucial, and something that I think you're all starting to also latch onto is it's a part of personal integrity. Right? So it's something that I actually can't quite PR unless you embody it. It's a difficult one. So one thing I also want to clarify is that we don't have special relationships with the media at Ballou PR, and no PR firm does, that guarantees that they write or talk or report on our clients. One of my closest friends works at the Wall Street Journal, but that doesn't mean that he'll write about anything I ask him to, right? It might mean that he'll take my call and he'll listen to me, but he won't do anything because I ask him. Our job is to understand what you guys are doing and how it is news, or how it fits into the news cycle, the news agenda of the day. So what I'm saying is that at its very best, PR is actually about corporate reputation. At its most basic, not at its worst, it's about just kind of tactical press releases, et cetera. And I'm asking you all as leaders in your companies to start thinking about how you want to be using it. Because sometimes it's really right just to get a firm that all they do is turn out press releases, they call and they pitch, and that's really what you need. But I am asking you to think about when you're going to need kind of that more senior level management, that more reputation management side of what you're doing, and also what you can do about it right now. So why is PR so powerful, right? It's because we're storytellers. We love hearing stories and we love telling them. And you know that when you actually read something in a story, when you understand the story of why a company was founded, you take that in, it's more important to you, you kind of live it more than just facts. Facts are compelling. Sure, we're cash flow positive, we have been, we're making $1 million a month. That is those numbers are compelling, but stories are what gets to us. And what I'm talking about is the court of public opinion, right? And the court of public opinion can be built through stories and storytelling. So again, I'm asking you to think about strategic versus tactical and when you're going to need one versus the other. And I'm going to point out to you that the most respected companies use PR to their advantage, as a strategic advantage. And in many cases, most of them even have a corporate communications officer in the C-level suite. So the other thing I'm going to ask you guys to think about as leaders is that there is one factor that's incredibly important in building your reputation, and it's you, right? I talked a little bit before about integrity and comporting yourself with integrity. If you have a strong reputation, you have a better chance of selling your products or services at a premium even in bad times. I think we know that, right? If you have a strong corporate reputation, you can weather crises far better than others. And I'm talking about becoming one of the more, it's what builds a brand, actually, a well-respected brand that can weather good times and bad. So, as you know, a good reputation does have to be earned. And one of the hardest things for us is to teach our CEOs to speak with authenticity and honesty and integrity. You'd be surprised. Right? So many people come to us and say, can you fix this for us? Can you push this under the rug? Can you make it go away? And we can't do that. PR is a microphone, PR is a spotlight, actually, right? So from day one, I want you to think about, as a CEO or as a leader, how you're going to, your company is an extension of you, isn't it? So it needs to be an extension of how you do things, right? And I've seen CEOs, and I've worked with Tim Armstrong from AOL, I've worked with Mark Zuckerberg, I've worked with Sheryl Sandberg, and the way they are publicly is actually an extension, at their very best, it's an extension of them. So in early days, Mark Zuckerberg, they tried to push him to be like a personality, and he's not. He cares desperately about his product. So if you watch, actually, over time, what does he comment about? What does yes, he'll talk about big corporate issues, vision, because that's really what is an extension of him, but he also cares desperately about product. You can't force this guy to be a backslapping, guy who's going to tell jokes on stage. That's just not his personality. Right? We have another CEO, a guy named Joe Cohen, who used to be the head of Seatwave, and this guy believes in being nothing short of completely open. He runs a company that does ticket touting, or for Americans, scalping, and it's a very big issue in the UK, a very emotional issue. And he said, look, people are going to resell their tickets to concerts. It's going to happen, right? It can happen in car parks, where you're meeting, secretly and, exchanging money for the tickets, or you can do it openly in a marketplace where you know the price, where you know what other tickets are going for for the same concert and roughly in the same place. I'm going to just bring this out into the open, and I believe in this, right? I'm not trying to, and so when he's challenged, and he's actually openly challenged by members of parliament, because for some reason it's really important to them, he answers. And he doesn't try to put it under the rug. He doesn't try to hide it. He doesn't try to talk about the good this is good for the world, and marketplace is the future. No, he says, look, this exists. We do it in an honest way. Wouldn't you rather have us do it like this? Or would you rather risk that the tickets that you get in the mail that you buy are counterfeit, and you take your son or daughter to a conference, to the next concert, and you get to the door and you find out those tickets are fake? What would you rather? Really? Just open, honest, not trying to hide what he does. It's what he does. So again, think about how you like to communicate, and most of us do like to communicate openly and honestly, and it needs just to be simply an extension of who you are. That's the only way that you can actually lead a company. So I'm going to talk about one of our clients, SendGrid. And they faced a crisis a couple months ago now. And you would think, what kind of this is a company that sends emails. What crisis could possibly happen, right? Servers might go down. What crisis could possibly happen to this company? And this is an example of how it can come out of nowhere, and it can happen to you. So, and some of you are probably familiar with the story. So, SendGrid had a developer evangelist who happened to be a woman and African American, right? And they were very proud of this fact, because it was rare in the community. And she was at a conference called PyCon. And she was sitting in an audience just like this, and behind her were some developers who were doing as they will do, making jokes about forking your repo and big dongles, and who really knew what the intent was, right? Who really knew? But she took offense at this. And what she did is she turned around and snapped a picture of the two guys, and then tweeted it out. To me, issue number one, if you have a problem with somebody, you should talk to them, right? No, but okay. Well, those guys quickly were outed on the internet, and the conference threw them out for not sticking to the rules of, gender neutrality, non-sexual harassment. But again, now we're already starting to talk about what was it really, because they claim that they were just having fun. They were honestly really talking respectfully about what they were seeing. She felt it was sexual harassment. Who knows where the truth is? Truth is between here and there. And the point wasn't to sort the truth. The point is how people were made to feel. So what happens is one of the employers of one of these developers, there were two of them, as I mentioned, fired the guy. He's a father of 3. Not great. And interestingly, then the story starts to take over, right? So this started happening at the end of the day. So I'm waking up in Europe, and I'm going, oh, okay. And the chief marketing officer of SendGrid happened to be in Europe at the time, so it became our problem. We started to own it in this time zone, right? We came up with the plan. We're like, look, just get these 2 in a room, or these 3, and sort it out. Let's face it, they're decent people. I don't care where they've gone. Get private jets, don't spare no expense, and just put them in a room and be like, let's really figure it out, and let's talk, sort it, because nobody really wants to be at odds with each other. Nobody really wants to be that angry. And I was starting to, in my mind, thinking, SendGrid could actually become a poster child for how you sort these kinds of issues, because we all know that, it's a big issue. Women in tech, sexual harassment, blah, 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 whether it exists, whether it doesn't exist. This could actually really work out quite well for them, interestingly. They could lead this charge. They could actually own this issue going forward. And I was very excited about that. So we worked out this plan, and the team wakes up in Colorado, and we start discussing it. Well, then everything went pear-shaped, because it was taken out of our hands. This is one of those things where, again, you just can't control what happens. Anonymous stepped in and started doing distributed denial of service attacks of SendGrid. And it was really interesting, because you'd think they would have gone after Playhaven. It was Playhaven's the one who fired the developer. Why did they go after SendGrid? Who knows? One of those things, and there's no reasoning going, hi, you shouldn't be getting mad at us. You should go do that to the other guy. You can't say that, right? But you have to deal with what's happening at that moment. And that started to change the game, because then they started to go after SendGrid's customers. And then it just went to hell in a handbasket, right? And our plan, which I really thought was a great one, and a human one too, and it's what SendGrid is about. They're just good guys, right? And then things had to then everything changed, and it went out of our hands. So what happened? They fired their evangelist. You can agree or disagree with that decision. But then of course, every single international publication in the world wanted to talk, because then it blew up. So look at what happened. It goes from, it could be happening in this audience right now, right? It goes from that to all of a sudden, you are front page tech news everywhere, right? Crises happen. I hope they won't happen to you, but they do happen, right? The only mistake, it wasn't even a mistake we made, was perhaps not acting fast enough. If we had implemented what we wanted to implement, it would have been a very different story, right? didn't move fast enough, but think about it. And I'm sorry, but no crisis plan we couldn't have been prepared for that. We could have never seen it coming. I'm not advising you to go out and write a crisis plan in case your developer evangelist, does something nutty. I'm just saying, know how you're going to react from your gut and do it with integrity and it has to be a part of your company culture, right? So, as I said, humans are stories, and that, I'm a storyteller, and I just told you a story. So, the few final thoughts I want you to take away is that if you don't speak and set your reputation, others will make it for you. And that's just the rule. If you don't speak up, others will speak for you. And finally, I'm suggesting that you start early thinking about this issue and think about the company. It's about thinking about the company you want to build. This is not PR, it's not just corporate reputation, right? It's the company you want to build, the culture you want. And again, honesty, transparency, authenticity, and integrity. I have to say no to probably 8 or 9 out of the 10 companies that come to us asking us for PR because they don't need PR. They usually need a better sales force. It means I'm not a super multi-billionaire right now, but you know what? I can live with myself, right? And then finally, you have to build and guard it carefully, carefully, carefully. One slip can really screw things up. But I'll tell you one thing, take a look now. SendGrid is not completely recovered, but because they are such a good company and have such integrity, they've managed to come through the court of public opinion pretty well, and only because this is the kind of company that they are. So that's really it. Common sense. I'd be happy to take questions now. I have a few minutes, about 3 or 4. So anyone want to ask me any questions?
She was scared of me. Yes, over there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Who are you and where are you from?
Can you stand up when you ask question?
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Cheyer. I'm CEO of a small startup based in Spain.
Okay.
And my question is about, we are focusing security, so PR is very important for us, but how can we build it with so scarce resources? Because of course,
So it's what, I'm sorry?
we don't have so many resources to not hire almost anyone, and we are all the time in the news. While I'm here, I have calls from 3 newspaper to radio station and to TV station, because now, all the NSA scandal is quite hot. So how can I do to get same message to everyone?
Well, first of all, most of the time you don't want to say exactly the same message to everyone because the media doesn't like that very much. They don't all want to say the same thing. They're in competition with each other. I think what you need to do is sort what you stand for. And if you're doing security and what you stand for and what you don't stand for, and I mean, you're in a great position, frankly. People are calling you and they want your attention. Most startups don't have a chance to actually get, they don't have media calling them. So I would just actually jump in and do it. I'll go back to integrity, authenticity, honesty. You should just be taking the calls and doing the interviews at this point. You're so young. Yeah, you don't need to hire us. And you shouldn't be wasting your resources. But I think what you don't understand is that you're in a great spot. If they're calling you, you're way ahead of the game.
Colette, I'm afraid we're out of time, but are you going to be backstage
Yeah,
at the
actually, not a problem.
Bar?
Guys, you might have questions you don't feel comfortable asking in front of other folks, so just come and ask me. That's what I'm here for, all right? So thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. Give it up for Colette Ballou.